Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch and welcome back to my studio. Today's plan was to paint koi fish, a symbol of health and luck, etc. But something went really wrong when I was recording, and I decided to keep the recording as it is. So you will get an impression that sometimes things go really wrong. Not every time everything goes smoothly, even if you are experienced artist, and I hope it will give you some inspiration. And anyway, koi fish were painted, so let's start it. First of all, let's map out our future koi fish. I will not go into the details, I'll just really map out. I like to place my fishes in this symmetrical yin-yang way. Of course, you could place your fishes as you like. So first of all, head, then body, and you eliminate the lines and bring them to one point, so it's like more looks like a comma. Map out eyes. Eyes are always very important. Keep this line, this top line, for future references, and paint the second fish, and then decorate with tail and everything. If that's more convenient for you, you could turn the piece of paper. First you paint kind of an oval, and then you paint the body and eliminate and bring the body lines to one point. Now let's paint tail. And as you could see where the heads are placed, so you could really just play out and place the tail parts around, so just to make it beautiful. And in this moment, you could really create something very special. Even if you paint from some reference, from some photo, right in this moment, here comes your imagination, here comes your art, your view. And the same with wings. You, in principle, right now, just fill in the space with beautiful details. They shouldn't be symmetrical. It shouldn't be very realistic. We are not, I would like to stress that out, we are not painting realistic watercolor. We could, but that's not our purpose. Right here, we are creating loose, impressionistic painting, to train our hand to be more improvising, etc. That's why it's important not to go into the details on that same point. One fish I would like to paint more in yellow colors and the other in reds. And I'm preparing permanent yellow, cadmium orange, and my favorite color, pyrrole. And as usual, I recommend you to use just basic watercolor sets, especially for the beginning. But one little exception I'm making for pyrrole orange. It's very specific color and it really enriches your palette. But let's start. I have a brush. I hold my brush in about 30 degrees to the paper. And I have pencil marks, so I'm just painting the head. And I painting it just with bold strokes. I press my brush and I let it go. And I let it go in very random way, because that will eliminate the feeling of real fish stains. Right here, I forgot to map it out a little bit. Here is this top wing. So I'm painting along the central line. So I keep shaping my fish with stains, but I do not cross this central line. And the more I move into the tail, the more white my fish gets. But I really want my fish, my white fish, to pop up from white paper. How I'm doing that? I'm mixing pyrrole orange with ultramarine blue to get this nice shady gray color. If you do not have pyrrole orange, the same trick will work, for example, with orange color, with permanent or with cadmium orange and ultramarine. You will get almost the same gray color. So I go along my fish and outline. It looks like a little bit of outline in the fish with very diluted, very diluted grayish color. And suddenly we have a fish. And it starts to pop up. Although it's still white fish, it really pops up from the paper. I will map out these folders, all these details, just with the tip of my brush. So to create folders, I just paint some strokes and leave wide area around. And we will add some color on the top. You will see it later. Let's just be a little bit more creative. The bigger stroke you made, the bigger the folder. So right now, what we are doing, we are painting the shades. So keep this in mind and not overdo it. Don't take the color too bold. Our fishes, they should be very light, delicate, etc., etc. Let's paint the tail. Tail is really fun thing to paint. Usually I paint a lot of flowers, and at some point you could apply your techniques with flowers to painting principle everything, at least with fishes. All these, their beautiful tails, shades, it feels like you're painting a flower at some point. Let's make a closer look how I'm doing it. I put my brush on a tip, I apply a little bit of pressure, and I release the pressure. I mix a little bit more of my magic grayish color, and I start at the same point. Tip of the brush, a little bit more pressure, curve, and I bring everything to one point. And just repeat. Pressure, less pressure. Pressure, less pressure. The more variations you add to the curve, the more interesting, of course, gets your fish, the more detailed it has. You could add a little bit more of tiny strokes, just like this. I like it very, very much. I let it dry. I turn my paper and I will repeat. I would like to paint two fishes in a little bit different way, because otherwise it's kind of boring. But of course you could try to paint super symmetrical, for example, or the other way around. So I want to add a little bit more bluish idea to the second fish. So I use the same mix of ultramarine blue and pyrrole orange. It will work with cadmium orange as well. So first of all, I go a little bit along the body. I don't paint too much on this side, because on the top of the fish or koi fish, they usually have these colorful stains, so no need to paint on this area right now. But the more we go to the white part of the fish, the more we need to apply these grayish shades. Sometimes I wash my brush and dry my brush with a paper towel and soften the edges like this. You could paint with small strokes, for example, to kind of imitate the skin and the scales on the fish, but don't go into the details. And now, again, these small little things, waves and folders, to make it really flowing. Try to vary the pressure on your brush. For example, if I paint just with the tip of the brush, it will make these small tiny little strokes. Once I apply a little bit more pressure, it creates a big fold. So if you just vary it and try to avoid being symmetrical. And you could try different things while you are painting. Right now it looks more like a bird, isn't it? So you see, that's why important to know basic watercolor techniques, because that could be applied to anything you're painting: birds, fishes, flowers, landscapes, etc. So let's finish these details. Let's paint the tail. Tail is my favorite part for painting fishes. It's because it's big, it's so wavy, it feels like I'm painting a flower. And I always try to add variety. Once you feel that your moves, your lines are getting same, and once you feel that you are getting bored, that's a sign to switch to something. For example, to switch to the different pressure on your brush, or apply some waves, or maybe change a little bit the color mix and change a little bit the mix. So don't get bored while you are painting. I'm pretty happy with this outlined fish. I'm turning the paper, I wash my brush, and I load my brush again with yellow and maybe with a little bit of orange, just traditional permanent or cadmium orange. Sorry, I always mix this, but honestly, in Whisper, that doesn't matter. So let's do these details. Now I paint just with the tip of my brush, and I leave a lot of white areas between the strokes. I outline right here. I add a little bit of orange, so the fin is a little bit different from the head. It's all about variety, it's all about lines. And right here I just paint in with the tip of the brush. I paint in some curvy details. Sometimes I apply a little bit more pressure, a little bit less pressure. Sometimes I'm overlapping with this gray underneath background, and sometimes I don't. Just like this. And to make it more interesting, I wash my brush and I just go a little bit with my dry brush and in some areas, not around all this thing, but in some areas I soften the edges. So I add a little bit of these special watercolor blooms, which makes it really nice. For example, I very much like how right here the yellow bloom appeared. I think it's pretty lovely. So again, I'm sorry, I think I'm more talking than painting today. So let's fix it. So I painting very randomly with the tip of the brush. I maybe a little bit correct my drawing. It feels like I could add a little bit more of length to some points. This is this rib. I painted just with strokes. I cover it with the strokes and something on the top. That's all. Easy. Easy, isn't it? The next one, the next thing I would like to make a little bit more on the white side, so I paint just the top outline. I wash my brush and I just drag out the color a little bit from the top to bottom, from the top to bottom, just like this. You see, now it's all coming into a shape. Nice. Maybe it would be nice to add some yellow stein to this end part, maybe like this. And my favorite part, of course, it's the tail. I have different mixes on my palette. I have orange, I have yellow, I have a hint of pyrrole, and with the tip of the brush I start to create lines. The color will be more intense at the point where the tail connects to the body, and then it just distributes. So I paint this upper part, I wash my brush, dry it a little bit with a paper towel, and then I just drag out the color. It's just clean brush without anything. I just use that color which I applied before. I kind of drag it out, and that's how I create this nice feeling of watercolor flow. Once I think I could bring something else to the drawing, for example, make it a little bit more yellowish, just could do that. I will add a little bit more of yellow details. Yellow is a bit complex color. It's very easy gets dirty, so try to apply it in between our gray areas. And I would like to stop at this point. Or maybe, you know what, first of all, I will paint eyes for the fish. I take a smaller, thinner brush and just neutral tint 2 small half rings with a little bit space left. That's all what you need to paint for a fish. And koi fish, they have this. So I paint mustache with the tip of the brush, just some random, not random, like half circle lines, I would really like to add a little bit more of shades on this rib, just about this, to make it a little bit more certain. Not so much. Like this. Now let's turn the paper. This fish, the second fish, I would like to paint with pyrrole. You could take just orange color. My main color would be pyrrole. Same principle. With body of your brush, you just create these stains on the top of the fish. It should be relatively random. Don't overthink it. At the end, it's just a fish. And again, to emphasize that rib, this fine on the top, I paint a red stain along it, like this. You could press your brush and relieve your brush. So that's very easily you create the skin texture, maybe a little bit imitation of scales. Leave a lot of white spaces. That's what define the koi fish. It's beautiful, very bright stains. I paint very carefully around this area to leave this fin white, and then I switch to these side areas, to the side things. I paint with the tip of the brush. I make it a little bit more bold in the area when fin connects to the body. I wash my brush, dry my brush with a paper towel, and drag out the color from top to bottom. And sometimes I make just random moves that creates it some sparkling, mesmerizing texture. Next one. First the top with the tip of the brush. I try to make the line very random. You see, I'm not painting the line just in one line. Try to make it even. No, the other way around. I try to bring more variety to my brush strokes. And playing a little bit around, wash my brush, drag out the color. Add some small details. I paint them in slightly different styles because it's two different fishes. They have two different looks. So it's nice, always nice to add some variety. You probably could see here and there have some little drops of color. That doesn't matter, and at the end of the painting we will add some water around. Of course, yes, our fishes should live in some pond. I very much like this contrast of pyrrole and this grayish, bluish grayish color we created. I think it looks super contrast and very nice. You could go a little bit on the top of few stains and add more color. And let's paint a tail. Let's paint a tail. Usually tails are more white, but we will repeat the same technique as with yellow fish, the golden fish. First I paint some big strokes, big brush strokes and lines, not really overthinking it. I wash my brush, dry my brush with a paper towel and drag out the color, the lines from the bold part to the edges, to the end of the tail. Again, I try to vary the pressure I'm applying to the to my brush. Oh, yo. So okay, I think I saved my keyboard and the painting. So these things happens. It's not the end of the world. I'm just wondering, because koi fishes are symbols of health and luck and wellness. And once you drop a glass of water on your painting, what does that mean? What does that mean? So let's finish. A few more curvy, lovely lines. I'm super careful with the water around. And just with the tip of the brush, you add some lines. Sometimes you soften the edges and add small little tiny dots and details. This will be a little bit dotty fish. You see, just slight difference in brush strokes, and two fishes, they look pretty different. You could clearly see that these are not identical twins. And for me it's nice, it's more interesting, intriguing to bring some variety, especially when you paint like two flowers in bouquet, or some composition with two pieces, three pieces. Make them a little bit different, make them bring something new to each and every. Okay, eyes and moustache. Eyes are pretty simple, not overdo it, just small black dots, half rings on the opposite side, one of each other, and leave small white area. And moustache, a little bit rounded, about this. Don't go into the details. And I'm pretty happy with what we have. I would like to add some water feeling around. I use ultramarine blue, but I mix it a bit with pyrrole to make it a bit more dusty. I make it relatively diluted, and what I'm doing now, I just take my brush and how to say, just create this just create a small waterfall. And if you have something like this, it's a water dispenser, you could add some tiny dots around. You could use water dispenser before you apply, before you make sprinkles, or after. It creates a little bit different textures. Just experiment with it. I think I would like to add a little bit carefully in the middle. When brush strokes get into the fish, that's completely fine. Just try not to make big puddles get into the fish. So I apply water dispenser in these corners where they would not hit or destroy the fish itself. I do not really like to overdo this with sprinkles. Maybe one last thing.
And here we go.
Thank you so much for watching this video. With this video, I want to support you. Whatever happens during your painting, first of all, it's not the end of the world. And second, that's the experience. You can do it. See you next time. I'm looking forward for your feedback. Bye bye.